Hey guys, so today we are here to talk about your UX UI portfolio. Honey, I'm gonna drop some gems. Let's get into it. So, welcome or welcome back if you've been here for my shenanigans before. Today, we are going to talk about your UX UI portfolio. So, this is where you're showing everything that you've learned, showing everything that you can do. And so, whether you're a vet in the game, whether you already have a portfolio but you're looking to level it up, or whether you haven't even started, don't know where to start on getting your portfolio together, hopefully this video will be super helpful. So let's get into it. So before I get into any tips and tricks, what is a UX UI portfolio? What is a product design portfolio? What is a UX research, UX writing portfolio? Whatever your specialty is, you need an online place to showcase your work. This is what hiring managers or founders or recruiters are going to come look and see what you know and see very quickly if you're somebody that they want to work with. So I personally think that the UX UI portfolio is like the most important thing. I will do like a story on my journey really soon, but I did not take any like formal courses or certificate courses on UX UI design until 2020, and I became a lead UX UI designer in 2015. So that lets you know that my success and my journey has not been super education based. It was based on me being super self-taught and building up a really strong portfolio that stood out amongst so many. So obviously I'm going to be a really strong advocate for an amazing portfolio, and over the years I've learned how to level up. It's funny, I was a little bit hesitant about starting this channel without like really updating my portfolio because I have been a designer for so many upcoming startups that are still like a little bit in stealth mode. I've done a lot of agency work or work through UX UI agencies. A lot of my best work is still under NDAs. Like I have like the years marked on my calendar, like 3-4 years from when I did it, when I can finally talk about it. And by then I've leveled up my skill so much that it's not even going to be as relevant. So my portfolio again doesn't have like my strongest or most popular or whatever work, but I created a portfolio that works for me, that showcases my design superpowers, my strengths, and just like gets the job done, baby. So don't go nitpicking over my portfolio, baby. It gets the job done. It gets the calls in, okay? It gets those responses. It gets the interviews booked. And that's what I want for you guys. So I am going to give you a few tips that I found important in creating the latest version of my portfolio that you all can follow along with and hopefully apply 1 or 2 or 5 of them to yours. So let's get into the tips. So my first tip for your portfolio is a really good one. I'm super excited about this one, guys. Super excited. Okay, so my first tip for your portfolio is to treat your portfolio as a design problem. If you've been doing all of this studying on, user research and how to, facilitate design thinking, then this should be something that is exciting to you. So what I did for my latest portfolio is I created a user persona based on who would be viewing my portfolio. And that helps you tailor this portfolio to your target user. It helps you solve their problem, which primarily their problem is going to be, I'm hiring for this role. I have a bunch of applicants. Some of them are really crappy. Some of them are really talented. But either way, I need to narrow this shit down really quickly and almost upon like first glance, second click type of speed. Like, don't got time to play around. So that's their problem. So as somebody who is solving their problem, you want to create a portfolio that appeals to them. It showcases your talents really quickly within like first scroll or first glance. They're starting to see something that catches their eye. And if you do get them to click on one of your case studies, it is really speaking to them. It's really speaking to their product, and it's really showcasing the skills that they need in a designer. And that is what is going to help you, baby, treat it like a design problem. So like for me, if I am looking for like a small to medium sized startup, I know that whoever is viewing my portfolio could be a founder, or it could be maybe an engineer that knows a little bit about design. Maybe there is a design lead at this company. And like those are kind of the people that I know are going to be viewing my portfolio. Now me, I'm not looking for anything corporate. So I'm probably not going to have corporate recruiters looking at my personal portfolio, but sometimes corporate recruiters do look at my portfolio, and I don't think it's really tailored to them. My shit's not boring. My shit's popping. I be cursing on my portfolio. You know what I'm saying? Don't advise that if you're not a senior designer. Um, and so, you know, people are like, oh, I wish I could be like you in my portfolio. Well, be like you in your portfolio. That is what is going to stand out. You have to show you. You have to show your personality. I'll do a quick show of my portfolio. So if you are, you know, if your target user is like a recruiter for big level corporate, then you need to target your portfolio to that. Mine is for like cool and quirky kind of recruiters or founders who are looking for somebody really different to kind of shake up things at their startup, but still also have a level of professionalism, let them know what I'm passionate about, my specialties, and then really showcase my skills. So that's a little like example of why portfolios work for some people and why they don't work for all people. And although in your career you'll juggle around, so you'll work at agency, you'll work at startup, you'll probably work for some corporate, so it will eventually depend, but just tailor it to what you think your job search will start out as and go. So another thing I get asked pretty frequently is like, Lindsay, like how many case studies do I put in this portfolio? Like how many is too many? How many is too little? And so for me, I think the sweet spot is 3 to 4, but no more than 5. This is because your case studies are things that you want to be really robust and really in depth. So they're going to be a little bit longer than just showing a few screenshots because you're going to be explaining things. And so I think it's important to just do that really well versus focusing on trying to show this huge variety, because again, you are going to be tailoring this to like a really specific, you know, maybe like a specific industry, or again, like a specific type, you know, whether it's startup, whether it's corporate, whether it's this. So I don't need to be showing, and I used to do this and it was horrible. I used to show like all the websites that I did for corporate, then all the apps that I did for startups, just so like whatever contract I was applying for, somebody would see this and somebody would see that. But eventually I had to hone in on what I really wanted to be doing and who I really wanted to be working for, and tailor my portfolio specifically to that, not trying to be a catch-all. When you niche down, I promise you guys, you catch so many more results. So I have hopped over to my computer to go over my next tip. I do want to say in advance that this tip is something that will cost you a little coin, so don't feel bad if you can't implement it right now. I just want to give you tips that will help you along any stage of your journey, whether it is now or later. So moving forward, the tip is to build out your portfolio on your own standalone site. So here is my portfolio. Again, it is something that I have a custom URL, custom domain for, something that I can quickly and easily give out the link to. It's not this site slash this user slash this and that. And that really helps to elevate you for a few reasons, which I'll go over. One, it gives you a little bit of credibility when it comes to being able to build out something. Even though you might have used a no-code builder, a theme, a platform that's easy to edit your work into, that really doesn't matter. People like to see that you can build out something. So even though it's definitely not a pressure of a UX/UI role to code out a website, it just seems to kind of give you those cred points for people who are looking for you to become a designer. It gives you that extra skill set that might put you above the rest. So again, I built this out in Webflow. It's supposed to be a no-code platform, even though I did have to do a little bit of coding to get the case studies the way I wanted them, etc. But either way, it's a popular platform, so I get bonus points for that. And so maybe if the companies you are working for, they might ask you literally like, hey, what did you build out your portfolio on? And those can become bonus points. So good things for building out your portfolio if you're not coding them from scratch are Webflow, WordPress. You can buy or find free things for that are portfolio or agency-based or creative. Squarespace is another option. And again, each of these kind of comes with a monthly or annual bill as well as your domain. So again, it's not something that's free to implement, but it is something that will put you a little bit above your competition. And this market is becoming more and more competitive, especially for entry level and even for senior level. So it is anything you can do, anything you can implement that puts you ahead is definitely going to be something that I recommend. Another reason that I say to build your own standalone website, using Behance as an example. Behance is something that a lot of people build out their portfolios on. It's free. I believe it's still free. It used to be free. Now it's so intertwined with Adobe, and I have a paid subscription, so I'm not completely sure, but somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But again, it's a place for discovering and building out your portfolio, building out these individual case studies. You can, explore the field of UX UI like here, and you can see all these amazing projects that are being worked on that are, in some way related to UX UI. You can get more specific and search, app design, or you can search for your industry, so fintech or that kind of thing. The problem is when it comes to these, it's kind of like when they say, don't keep your e-commerce store on Etsy, build out your own standalone site on Shopify or something like that. It is because of the discoverability aspect of this, right? When you come to my site, you are there for me and only me. That's it. That's it. And that's who I want you to see. I don't want a recruiter or a founder or somebody who hasn't heard of Behance or one of these other sites to get to it and have a little bit of extra time after they see my portfolio to further explore it and discover this whole new world of designers that they had never heard of, or these amazing agencies. And they're like, maybe I just need to hire an agency for this project. Or, I see this different, designer that is great too. You don't want those kind of problems, and those things can happen. Just like when you're on Etsy, you can discover so many other suggested products similar to yours, and they might buy that one instead of yours. So you do have that plus of a discoverability factor. You don't necessarily have to send your Behance portfolio to people for them to find you by location or searching specific work. So it's a plus in that aspect. And I'm not saying don't build out something on here as kind of like a supplement to your standalone portfolio. But again, as your only, you do risk that discoverability affecting you, affecting the position. They might choose to do something totally different with a contract after discovering a site like this. And, it probably is a little bit rare, but again, just putting yourself on that like self-branded standalone site will definitely help push you forward a little bit in the process. And if you do have quick things that you want to share that are not full case studies, you can do other kind of discoverable sites like Dribbble. I don't use mine nearly as much. All of this is old stuff, but it's here. People do discover me by this. They see my work, especially if they're local to Charlotte. It's not a design-heavy city. I don't have a ton of competition here. There are great designers here, but in UX UI, still not that heavy yet. So I get a lot of inquiries just based on that. So again, you can still be a member of these different sites for discoverability, but when it comes to sending specific recruiters or people that you want to see just you and your work, it's great to have that standalone site where you can really lay out things the way you want to lay them out. Again, kind of solve a design problem and
custom craft your own experience that you might not have the opportunity to do on those other sites. So it's something that really gives your portfolio a little bit of that edge when they are coming in and exploring, and you're able to lay out things you want to lay out and have things the way you want to have them. Again, it's a lot similar to what I would put in my Behance projects, but again, I have a little bit more control and customization and background design and everything else. So just keep that in mind, but don't get discouraged if it's not something you can implement now. Just saying, if you want to be a design voice, be a design leader, have an easy to remember link, then this is something to consider for your portfolio. Just a tip, guys. Just a tip.
So my next tip is short and sweet, but very important. And that thing that I've seen been done really well and that stood out to me when looking at other designers' portfolio is to create an intro. So this is just like a short couple sentences, maybe like a full paragraph, break it up however you like to, but just like a few things about you and what you're passionate about or what your design superpower is. And I really just love intros because it always helps me see like what kind of designer this is, like what they're really interested in. Like for me, I'm interested in things that make an impact. So startups or nonprofits that have like a social impact is really big for me. Versus others I've seen where they're like really into artificial intelligence. So that's just like kind of their jam. Other people are really into like Web3, crypto, NFTs, and that's kind of their jam. And a little bit in those intros goes a long way, especially if you're just starting out and maybe not every project in your portfolio is really catered to that, but just them knowing that you have like a growing interest or passion in an industry that is related to their company or startup or wherever it may be, it can be a really big plus. So definitely try to do a little intro, give a little, intro into your personality, because it can have a really big effect when people are, viewing all these portfolios. They're trying to connect with not only your work, but you as a person as well, to see if you might be a fit for their team. So intros are super important. Make it happen. So when you're actually in the nitty gritty and you're in your case study, one of the best tips I have is to show your work. So UXUI, it's really all about the process. Like a lot of people, they try to focus on the prettiest things, and I used to do this too because I hate ugly things being in my portfolio. So I used to only show the, app mockups and the app screenshots and the UI portion of the project. And maybe I would describe, any like UX portions of the project in, my copy and my paragraphs, but I would not show the work because the work is usually ugly. But that's one thing I had to overcome, and it has like made such a difference in letting people know that it's not just about creating pretty things unless you're solely focused on UI, right? If you're focused on UX UI, people want you to be end to end. So they want you to be able to fully understand the design thinking, the thought process, what you can do to strengthen their product and let them know that they're on the right path to conversions or to growth, not just like making something pretty, because ultimately that's not the most important thing for a corporation or startup. They want something that is going to change their numbers, so they want to see the work that has gone into the back end of that before you get to making it pretty. So that is where your user research, your wireframes, your flows, all those things come into play. And those are things that you have to show in your portfolio when they want to see process. So yeah, you're going to have the sticky notes up there. You might have some ugly sketches. All of those things, show your work. Do a pretty cover photo of the final app design, but then once they click into it, yes, have that ugly stuff first, because the ugly stuff is the first part of the process. And then you get to the cute stuff, right? And in each of these projects, you're not always going to even show that full process. So that's another thing to think of when you are crafting these case studies. You want to think of like the things you really want to show. So one thing might fully be a research project. One one thing might be showing research that led to UI. One thing might just be showing how you can build a design system and showing that. So not everything will always be an A to Z end-to-end process. Sometimes it will just be like a hefty chunk of the process that really highlights a certain skill. But whatever you are showing, just make sure it's like in depth enough for them to really see things. So if you are breaking up parts of the process, just make sure there's still enough content there for it to be a full case study. And again, we're at something that I feel is one of the biggest tips that I can give. Is something that I didn't ever think of in the beginning processes. It's probably something I just adopted probably like a year or so ago, and that is to practice your presentation. So, people are going to look at your portfolio initially, but if you do get through to next rounds, you are eventually going to get to a portfolio presentation round, and you don't want to just bring up your website and go read through exactly what's there and the things that they've already looked at and read over. Your portfolio presentation is made to provide additional insight. That's why it's great not to have a super, super long case study. You still want some insights and back end info or a back end story that you can still tell while walking through the points that you have made there for them to see. Maybe, share some additional things that they didn't know about. That's what they're looking for. So they want you to be able to, one, present your ideas and see how you talk through your design thinking. And that is something that takes a lot of practice. Just because you did the project, even if it was a super real project, you were in it for months, it's something you really worked on, it can still be really overwhelming to like condense that and talk about each phase of it and to properly articulate what you want them to know and highlight your own strengths during the project, highlight what went wrong, highlight what you learned. And so again, you don't want to put all of that stuff in your case study because that can become really lengthy. You really want like one paragraph like per stage of the process, if that. Sometimes just like 2 sentences or so. So save some of that for your portfolio presentation. And again, for me, I'm somebody who is on a lot of NDAs. So sometimes my portfolio presentation is actually one that I've built out on Keynote, and I'm actually just going over a presentation that way. And it's not even the same projects that are in my online portfolio. So that's always an option. I don't want to have like a password protected portfolio from the jump. So I have my public one, but when there are projects for me to go more in depth with, just depending on who I am speaking to or the type of startups I'm speaking to, because I do have so many past projects, I can tailor my portfolio presentation, which is usually like an in-depth walkthrough of like 2 of your case studies. I can tailor those case studies to best fit. If it's recent enough, I feel like my work was strong enough and I feel like it's within their niche or industry, I can tailor my portfolio presentation to them. In the beginning, it might just be those projects that are on your public portfolio. But again, you just want to be able to share some additional insights and things that aren't just right there. Don't just go through reading through the text that is already on the page, because at some point they've already done that. You want to enlighten them on some new information, and practicing doing that again is super important. And I don't mean just practicing it once you're on the call now, because again, most things are remote now, so you might not have that in-person pressure, but it's just as much pressure on Zoom. And so you want to practice those things. And so you can either just practice by talking through it to yourself, thinking about like what other insights you can add, kind of jotting those down as notes, and then kind of going over it again and making sure you include those things. But what I found to be the most powerful, which probably came from me thinking about doing YouTube and me having experience with doing these kind of videos, is to record myself walking through my own presentation. So you can do this with any kind of like screen recording programs. I think whatever is built in on Mac, QuickTime or whatever, like already has it. I use Loom. It's my favorite product. it's something that's a good tool to get to know how to use, because I use it for like asynchronous communication with startups, with people in different time zones. We don't have to meet. I'm gonna just send you a Loom video recording of the work I did and talk through my design ideas and design thinking. So this is a skill that you will use in those types of scenarios. Practicing walking through your portfolio projects, your case studies, is going to be so helpful. And again, I think it's super helpful to do it on a recording that you can watch back of yourself. See, like when you're like, because I do that a ton. Try to cut that out almost to where it's still natural, but it's almost a little bit scripted. And again, you might have the opportunity to go through like 50 interviews where you get to practice that, but hopefully not, right? So you want to do those 50 practice runs on your own so that you can be acing your first few interviews and you don't have to go through this super long, crazy process. So practice your portfolio presentation. Record yourself, critique yourself, better yourself. You only get better with time with everything. So practicing your design work, practicing your design thinking, practicing speaking about it. It's all intertwined in this. It's a UX universe, you guys. It's all a thing. So yeah, last and final tip, practice your presentation. In the end, I hope those tips were helpful. Hopefully you can implement 1 or 5 of them, whatever seems to help you on your journey in building out your portfolio. If you have any more questions about portfolios, feel free to drop them in the comment box below. I'm going to do better at like actually really responding in depth to comments. A lot of them are just positive messages that I heart. Thank you guys so much for those. But feel free to ask me any questions. Also, if you would like some more customized help on your UX UI journey, I have now finally opened consults. I've been doing them for about a month or 2 now. It's been super enjoyable, super exciting to see where people have gone with the info that I presented them with. Some have gotten jobs, congratulations. And so that's been really fun. So that is something that I do offer now and you can check out. It is paid. So if you want to ask questions for free, 1 or 2 questions for free, do that in the comments. But if you want something more custom and tailored to you, your journey, I do have these unique consults. It's called the wireframe. It is a video consultation, but it's not live. So it gives you the opportunity to tell me about your journey, ask me questions. I go, I research, I record videos, I get them back to you. Then you can follow up with any additional questions. And it's just like a really cool custom experience. I feel like when you're on the phone with people, like unless you're off the dome person, you might not have like the best information available for them like right at that moment. Like there are times I need to share links, I need to review different sites and documents with you to really be able to give you in-depth advice, and that's something that I'm able to do again using my Loom videos. I love Loom. So again, that is the wireframe consult. You can find it in my links. I'll link it down below. But other than that, I'm always here to help. Social media, some of my DMs are closed because they get crazy, but ask me on the timeline, ask me here in the YouTube comments, and I will try my best to help you all out. So more videos are on the way. Hold me accountable. I said this last time, but it's the new year. So hold me super accountable. Thanks for all the gentle nudges. I really appreciate them. They make me smile. They make me laugh. Thanks for all the positive comments. And I'll be back soon with more. Bye guys.